and welcome to Basic Navigation in D365 Finance and Operation. If you're watching this video, it will cover all the basics about navigating the system as a new user, and as an experienced user, you might learn a thing or two. So the first thing I want to focus on is the home screen that you're greeted with. Dynamics 365 is a web-based application, which means with a URL and a Active Directory account, you can access your system. So I am currently logged into the standard Contoso environment, which is essentially demo data provided by Microsoft. And once the URL is opened, I am greeted with the standard homepage. We will start moving through those items mentioned. So the first one is the search bar. So it works pretty much like any search bar. Once you search for the particular item that you're looking for or the activity that you want to perform, it will return all results that it finds that meets the criteria of what you've been searching. In our example, we're looking for all purchase orders. You'll see that we find 2 results that meet our criteria. It also then specifies for us exactly what the menu item is and the menu path to get to that menu item. So there are 2 modules that we can access the purchase orders from. We've got accounts payable and procurement and sourcing. Then if we move swiftly to our right, we've got a company selection. So please note, if you're a new user in Dynamics 365, your selection here will be limited based on the company that you have access to. So you might only essentially be working in one entity, and for that reason you would most likely never use this drop down. But if you're an accountant or some role that might have access to multiple legal entities, then you might see 1 or 2. Then the next feature is Copilot. So this was quite recently introduced. Copilot allows you to do any sort of questions regarding processes. So how would I create purchase order? And what's quite nice about this is that it is ring fenced to the specific application. So it will look specifically for answers related to Dynamics 365 F&O. You can vote whether it was helpful. You can see every single instruction, and as time goes by, this is just becoming more and more useful to the users. Next, we have the user cog, or the settings item, and this one's quite vital to personalize your experience as the user. So if we open up, we get a couple of tasks. If you would like to see a dedicated video on task recording, please let me know down in the comments, as well as personalization. The mobile app is being deprecated, so not really worth diving into too much. But today specifically, I want to focus on user options. So if we open this is a personalization and visualization form for the user specifically. So what we can do is we can set a color theme, the sizing, so this will allow us to see more or less, and also change our color scheme. The way I use the color scheme personally is if you're a consultant or you work in multiple environments. So what I mean by multiple environments is you could have a sandbox or a user acceptance training environment and a production environment, and you want to make sure that you don't accidentally work in the incorrect one. It's a very good standard or methodology to use is to color code your different environments. It helps for 2 things. The first is ensuring that you don't work in the incorrect environment, because the last thing you want to do is post a transaction in production when you actually meant to post it in test. And secondly, I like coloring the environments because it also allows, and this is more for the advanced users, but it allows you to see when a restore of your sandbox environment has been done from your production environment, because the color resets back to the standard default color. The second thing I wanted to show is the preferences. So this is where you can set up the default company you would like to access when the system opens. You can also select the language. Please be careful when selecting the language, because if you select the language you don't understand, it will actually change the interface to that specified language. Also very useful if you're implementing for a customer that's in a different language. It comes standard with the application that you can change it to a different language other than English, and it will actually change the entire application to that language, including reports being printed. The last thing I want to touch on here is the workflow options. Here we have the ability to receive notifications and receive notifications in our action center. So action center I didn't quite touch on, but that's our bell icon here, which allows us to see alerts in the system. Once you select either of these, it will behave accordingly. So if there's email set up for workflow notifications, the user that this is set up for will receive workflow notifications. Similarly, if this is set up for the action center, the user will receive notifications via the Action Center. The last item here is how you want to receive those notifications. Do you want to receive it by individual line item? So if you have 3 lines on a workflow, do you want to receive 3 notifications for that? Or do you want to group those together in a single notification to that user? Last is the delegation feature. So very powerful tool. It allows you to set up delegations for your users, or you as an employee at the organization can set up a delegation if you know that you're going on leave. What this does is it automatically delegates all responsibilities that you had in the system for a given date and period to another resource in the business. So you can see you can break it down by module, workflow. If you break it down by workflow, which is the most common use case I've seen, you can select the specific workflow that user or delegate needs to take over in the given time and period. You can then also see any past, future, any delegations that's been set up for any sort of auditing purposes, as well as a comment for that specific enablement. If you've made it this far in the video, I just want to say thank you very much. I'm new to this, and I would really appreciate any sort of feedback, a like, a subscribe, anything to help the channel. I plan on making more of these videos in the future with anything that gets commented or potentially topics I find very interesting on the application. Thank you. Next up, we move to the left-hand side to our burger icon, as mentioned earlier, and we'll start working through each one of these menu items. So the first one I mentioned was the home screen. If you ever as a user get lost in the system, simply clicking the home screen will return you to the screen that I am currently have open. The second thing is favorites, but to understand how this works, we need to first open a module. So if there's any menu items that you as the user constantly work with, and you're tired of navigating to that specific menu item over and over. So let's say my job was to onboard vendors through the client. I could simply click the Add to Favorites button. It is immediate, so you'll see I can select and deselect each time. Selecting this once will put that in my favorites, which means if I ever need to navigate to these most commonly used menu items, I can simply open favorites and then select the menu item. And that's how favorites work. The next is recent. So recent will highlight all the particular menu items that you worked with for that day or recently. Good practice that I use is I use the system organically, and then once I've done my job, I can see which menu items I use to perform my activities, and that way I can mark these as favorites, which means in the future, if this if this recent list ever changed, I could simply go back and add new favorites or remove previous favorites. Fourth thing is workspaces. Because I'm a system administrator, I can see every single workspace available to me in the system, but this won't be the case for a user in the system that is using it to perform their daily activities. The way I like to think of workspaces is they are mini command centers, which allows or groups all your activities into a single form with tiles to allow ease of access across different kinds of activities. So for this example, what I'll do is I'll go to the procurement and sourcing space, and what you'll see is the first tab that you're greeted with is always the workspaces tab. What we can look is we have 3 workspaces available to us. So if we look at purchase order preparation, what it will do is it will group a lot of activities that are related in preparing and following up on purchase orders for the specific users. And what this also allows is it allows for different views to be built in and different tiles to be accessed to see which purchase orders, for example, were approved. Once you click the tile, it will actually open the list as such. And what we can see here is that there are filters pre-applied on the approved purchase orders in the system. The last burger icon that I would like to touch on is the modules. One thing I did not mention is that there is a pin button over here, and if you are tired of doing this, you can simply pin this and it will not go away. So you will have this permanently on the side of your screen for ease of access. The last heading is modules. Modules are alphabetical, and as you can see, because I'm a system administrator, I can see every single module in the system. What Microsoft has focused on with Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations is keeping the theme of the system consistent throughout. And what that means is once you get used to the basic layout of how things function in the system, you will become a lot more comfortable. So what you'll notice is that every single module that I open has an expand all, collapse all feature. It is structured in a way that it has menu items and then sub-menu items for activities under each one of the specific headings. So this is everything related to vendors, everything related to purchase orders, invoices, etc., etc. And then you have setup tabs, which is most likely going to be used by the consultants setting up the system, where parameters can be set up, etc. And what you'll notice is that every single module in the system operates in the same fashion. So once you get used to this layout and how it functions, you will find as a user it a lot easier to navigate by knowing how it's laid out functionally. That concludes our basic navigation through D365 Finance and Operations. If there are any questions or any additional videos that you would like to see, please leave a comment down below. I would like to answer as many questions as I can about system navigation. I'm sure there are some things that have been missed. So if you would like additional videos on specific topics, please let me know down below. Thank you.